Thank you, Mr Speaker. My question is to the Minister for Human Services. Who gave final approval for the distribution of the political newsletter that was sent to all DHS staff?
The Minister.
In terms of the wording of the newsletter, I approved the wording of the newsletter. But to be clear, the newsletter that was intended for the electorate office was sent out to the department. That was an error. It was realised within a very short space of time and an apology issued. I think we've actually executed this or prosecuted this before, and that, you know, the song Road to Nowhere kind of comes to mind. The staff member feels completely unwell about it and has been supported through this whole period of time. And in fact, I can give you advance notice so that you can start trawling through stuff. We're doing another newsletter. We are about to do another newsletter celebrating 6 months of extraordinary announcements, 6 months of many, many visits to many sites, engagement with stakeholders, meetings with constituents. I think there's a few things that have come as a common thread. Wow, you actually use the main lift and don't go up the back lift of the office to hide from people. Or, wow, you actually have me in your office for a meeting? The last minister, we had to sit in the boardroom across 10 feet of table. Oh, wow, we've met with you twice already. Oh, this is crazy. I barely even saw the other minister.
Order.
Oh, we've had to turn people away from coming to the forums because so many people want to come and actually be listened to by someone who actually cares about what's going on. Oh, hang on. I've never had so many conversations with the minister who is so engaged and so committed to delivering on excellent social policy.
Order.
OK. Oh, wow.
Member for Morialta.
You've been to more places in 6 months than the other minister went to in 4 years. Wow. Oh, you are making such a difference. I tell you what, Member for Frome, I tell you what, I'll send you the newsletter in advance so you can have a look at it and celebrate with me. How's that? You're welcome.
Order. This is supplementary from the Member for Frome. Member for Frome.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. My question is to the Minister for Human Services, and I look forward to that email. Will that email be prepared by Departmental Services?
Minister.
Oh, goodness me. So, how it happens, and I actually hope you never get to learn how it happens, but you compile that with a range of people behind the scenes, very good people doing the work. Then that email for the staff then gets sent to the office and they distribute it to the department. And with all going according to plan, if the planets align and it's not like a third half of a fourth phase moon on some planet and all the things go weird, the right one will go to the electorate office and go out to the electorate to also share in all the joy and happiness that is good government, delivering great policy and changing the lives of people one conversation at a time. Oh, and one newsletter at a time.
The Member for Frome and then the Member for Playford. Member for Frome.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. My question is to the Minister for Human Services. Why did the South Australian Housing Authority refuse to send the minister's newsletter to SAHA staff on the 3rd of June?
Minister.
I don't have a response for that at all. I've got no idea. Don't.
We'll take one final supplementary and then the Member for Playford. Member for Frome.
Mr Speaker, on the 3rd of June, it was released under FOI that the South Australian Housing Authority did refuse to send out the political newsletter.
There's a order.
Yes,
there's a point of order.
That was then distributed.
Member for Frome, I'll hear the point of order. I apologise, the Member for Morialta. Earlier didn't hear him appealing to me. There was a bit of a clamour in the chamber. That was my mistake on the point of order. Point of order from
the member for Frome
Member West Torrens.
introducing detailed explanation without seeking leave of the House, sir. Perhaps you should seek leave of the House first before her question. Otherwise, it's full of argument.
I'll take an alternative approach. I'll allow the member for Frome to rephrase the question.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. I appreciate your indulgence. Mr Speaker, my question is to the Minister for Human Services. When did the Minister's office become aware that the South Australian Housing Authority refused to send the political newsletter? And with your leave and that of the House, I will explain.
Leave is sought. Is leave granted? Member for Frome.
Emails released under FOI revealed that the South Australian Housing Authority staff refused to send out the political newsletter that was then distributed to all DHS staff.
Minister.
I think you've just asked and answered. So the good people of Saha, who also are very pleased that we have a new government in town that's actually listening to them and working with them, contacted, I understand, our office on reading the newsletter and did realise that there was political content in there. I understand that potentially was the flag, the very first alert that somebody human with a pulse, a real person, had made a real human error and feels terrible about it, but you can keep going on about it, and you will, and you're wasting your time. They made a terrible mistake. They feel awful, and continuing to prosecute the error of one person is not going to get you anywhere.
Order.
Continue on. Gee, there's a lot of men over there, isn't there? A cacophony of blokes. I have already explained that one person feels terrible, and I understand that the response from Saha when that incorrect newsletter was sent was, "This has got political undertones," or something to the effect. And that's when the message went to DHS. DHS issued the apology for us, and end of story.
Member for Schubert. Member for Playford.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. My question is to the Minister for Climate, Environment and Water. Can the Minister explain the process that resulted in the recent nomination of Sleaford West as the preferred site for the air desalination plant by the local site selection committee, and any implications for the cost of the project?
The Deputy Premier.
Thank you, Mr Speaker, and I thank the member for his question. Members of this House may well be aware of the history of this issue. There is a critical need to provide an independent water source for the Eyre Peninsula. The Yulee South Basin currently provides over 3/4 of the drinking water supply for the Eyre region, with most of the remainder coming from the River Murray. The Yulee South Basin and its borefield is the last remaining major productive groundwater source on the Eyre Peninsula, and it's therefore very important to the region, and its health is constantly monitored by SA Water. That monitoring has made it clear that the basin is under serious pressure and that augmentation of supply is urgent. And in fact, initially, the identification was that it would become urgent in summer of 23-24. Fortunately, we've had some rain, and that's pushed that out to around December 25. In 2018, SA Water's board approved construction of a desalination plant, and in August 2019, 3 years ago, the former Liberal government granted approval for a new saltwater desalination plant at the cost of nearly $100 million. This original site was in Sleaford Bay, but after further work by SA Water, geological conditions suggested that this would be a challenging site to build on and would involve additional costs. And this resulted in an alternative preferred site being announced in October 2021, the site at Billy Lights Point, with first water expected in 2023. However, as many people will know if they've paid attention to regional media in particular, there was a local pushback about this and many concerns from locals, and so the former minister announced a 12-month pause. And he established an independent site selection committee that was led by the former MP Peter Treloar, and I think all of us can attest to the quality of Peter and his work. I've met several times with Peter Treloar, and I've recently met with representatives of the group, including Peter, and I believe and I've conveyed to them that they've done good and diligent work to look at the options available. So they have identified a new site at Sleaford West, a finding announced only a few weeks ago, And this is because of a process that was established by my predecessor in this portfolio. And this site has not yet had full geological testing done, although SA Water is working on that at present. Initial estimates of the cost of the construction on this site are that it could be around $100 million more than the original site approved by the former government. And here we are, being challenged in the media by the former minister, saying that I'm dithering. Following a process established by a previous minister who put a 12-month pause, set up a committee, no sense of where the additional money would come from. The committee has duly done its work, presented it to me, and this is being characterised as dithering. Now, the real challenge is how this is going to be funded. The real challenge is there any likelihood, any prospect of additional funding being sourced for another site? Because it could be suggested that what the previous minister did was push a difficult decision past the election, establish a process that would raise people's hopes, would establish a process that involved...
Deputy Premier, there's a point of order which I'll hear under 134.
At this stage, this is pure debate. It's a rhetorical device. It's personal and it's irrelevant to the question that was asked.
And it's dithering.
Order. Order. An appeal has been made to a number of standing orders. I will listen carefully. I'll ask the Deputy Premier to come back to the substance of the question.
The question of how this is to be funded is a serious one, because this is one of the projects that I've inherited from the previous government, established as a process. A halt was put on a decision that had previously been made. A process was established that has now been received that suggested an alternative site, being Sleaford West, germane to the question. But no process was established for how additional funding would be sourced. None whatsoever. So the gall of the former minister accusing us of dithering when he himself established the process that has taken time is extraordinary.
The member for Frome and then the member for Narungga. Member for Frome.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. My question is to the Minister for Human Services. Does the Minister consider it appropriate for a member of the public or a third party to use the resources of the public service to distribute messages on behalf of the Minister? And with your leave, sir, and that of the House, I'll explain.
Leave your sword. Is leave granted? The member.
Thank you. On Thursday, 2nd of June, Department of Human Services and South Australian Housing Authority staff were supplied with a draft ministerial newsletter to format and distribute by an individual using a private email address. This person has been described in documents released under FOI as being in the position of a, quote, relief electoral officer and also an almost comms person.
Minister.
My understanding is at times people have difficulties when they're working from home, and so when it does become difficult to log on to any kind of mainframe or remote server, I think it's quite appropriate to continue doing your work, and in that case I understand a Gmail account was used to actually continue doing work and continue to be able to work effectively from home. At the time that this work was being undertaken, call your chops, like really.
Order. Minister has the call.
I think at this particular time we were still under those periods where there was quite elevated numbers of COVID. I don't have to give you the information, but if you gave a toss about the person who has a particularly vulnerable child in their home, this is someone that we wanted to keep at work but lower the risk of them contracting COVID, so they work from home. I mean, this is what happens. I have had to resort to using a non-government email for things that aren't sensitive. Oh my God, a Gmail account.
Order.
In terms of,
Order.
Have you never had the fact that you're? Can I finish?
Order.
A cacophony
Member for
of
Chafee.
nonsense.
The leader is called to order. Member for Dunstan. The minister has the call.
Did I finish the sentence? Did I tell you
Member
when
for
I
Hartley's
use it?
warned.
In order to
Member for Hartley's warned for a second time.
Sometimes, I think we all use other email accounts. We don't. Did I say I was doing ministerial work? I didn't say I was doing. No, I did not say that.
Order. Minister will not respond to interjections.
Gee whiz, Batman.
Order.
Doesn't take much to get you excited, does it?
Minister has the call. Minister, I bring you to the substance of the question.
To be honest, it's so long ago, lost track of it. I think this particular case...
Order.
It's like some really awful cartoon that's going on. When people have to work from home and have timely or things that have to be done in the course of time, if it's not of a nature that's personal and private to any constituent or individual, I don't have a problem. She kept the work going, and it happened. It was about to go out, obviously be distributed. It wasn't of a sensitive nature. Sadly, given...
Order.
Given that, again, as I say, we have prosecuted this over and over and over again, the individual has said how terrible she feels, and I've supported her, and she does a great job. I have great respect for her and for her capacity to be able to do work under very challenging situations, and I'll continue to support her, and yeah, she will continue to do an excellent job. But thanks for your concerns, like really sincerely.
Member for Noronga. The member for Morialta.
Sir, thank you. The supplementary question is to the Minister for Human Services. Given the Minister has identified that the staff member in question used private email with the agreement of the Minister, and the Minister in that answer also referred to her own use of private email in the course of her work activities, have all of those emails from herself and or the staff member...
Order. I'll hear the point of order under 134 from the member for West Torrens.
134,
the member
sir.
for Hartley is warned for a final time. Member for West Torrens.
Sir, yes, Standing Order 97. A member, nor may a member offer any facts by leave of the House. The Shadow Minister is attempting to insert facts as a matter of course in his question, which is unparliamentary.
Very well. Member for Morialta.
Thank you, sir. My supplementary question is this. Has the Minister satisfied herself that any emails referred to in her previous answer, or any other emails sent from private email accounts in the course of her or her office staff's duties, have been kept in accordance with the State Records Act and made available to the Manager of State Records? And with your leave and that of the House, sir, I'll seek to explain.
Leave is sought. Is leave granted? Member for Morialta.
As described by the Minister for Health in a media release of the 31st of July 2018, we are reminded that former ICAC Commissioner Bruce Lander said in his annual report, "It has come to my attention that at least in some government offices, personal email accounts might be used to convey official information between public officers rather than through official government email facilities. It is a matter of concern that public officers would seek to circumvent a legislative scheme designed to enhance transparency in government decision-making. Such conduct might, at the least, account to misconduct in public administration and be the subject of investigation and potential disciplinary action."
Minister.
I don't even know what the question is.
I see the order. I see the Minister.
Thank you very much, Mr Speaker. It seems to me that the opposition is attempting to impugn on a member a course of action that she has not in any way informed the House of. And it seems to me, Mr Speaker, if the opposition have an accusation to make, let them make it. Let them make it. This fishing expedition, after yesterday's big catch, Mr Speaker, seems to me to be a ploy of the opposition. If the opposition have evidence of anything that is close to resembling their question, then let us see it. Otherwise, I would have suspected that over the course of the last 6 weeks, there might be some substantive questions to ask the ministers about the transition to Year 7, about the state of the budget, about how our election commitments are being delivered, about infrastructure, about the North-South corridor, about energy. Instead, sir, we're getting a series of questions based on Disney characters and, Mr Speaker, a series of emails that have been answered previously. It's not our fault, Mr. Speaker. It is not our fault, Mr. Speaker.
Order.
The member's officer took holidays for the last 6 weeks.
The leader's called to order.